SeeYouSpaceCowboy singer Connie Sgarbossa took a moment with us for an AIM Lockdown podcast at the beginning of November to talk about her music and her vision of art creation. She writes lyrics, she sings, screams, growl, but she also creates the visual environment of her band, as well as some others from North America. Presently, SeeYouSpaceCowboy released a compilation, Songs for the Firing Squad, and an album, The Correlation Between Entrance and Exit Wounds. So, thanks a lot for accepting this interview. As we are in France stuck at home, only allowed to go out to shop or work, we wanted to give a platform to bands, especially bands with explicit political content, which goes along with our collective struggles and topics. Your band, SeeYouSpaceCowboy, released an album at Pure Noise Records, right? A year ago. And well, I discovered your stuff first on live shows on 856, which were really really amazing. And I saw two of them. Then I followed you on Twitter. I understood that you did way more productions than you singing and sassing on stage with SeeYouSpaceCowboy. You did a lot of arts, which I really loved following your on Twitter for that.
Well, thank you.
I'd love to discuss that too, but for now, can you present to our European and French audience your band, how you define it, and what you're working on these days?
So I'm the vocalist for SeeYouSpaceCowboy. Well, my name is Connie Sgarbossa. We are a weird amalgamation of sassy metalcore and art punk, I guess. And now with the lockdown and everything, I've really just been doing a lot of writing with the band. We've been working on a new LP, and we've been doing a lot of just getting an ungodly amount of songs together to like figure out what we want to do with them. And personally, I've been doing a lot of art and working with a lot of bands, just because there's a lot of releases coming out and such during COVID. So I've been doing a lot of art and I've recently started having a creative director position for bands. So doing their entire release. I conceptualize their music video, I make their album cover, I do their packaging, I do their like visual marketing, I do their merch for the release as well. So I've been keeping myself busy with that.
So you basically helped me discover the music term sasscore or sassy metalcore, which is often applied to your music and persona on stage. Can you define it with your own words?
So like sass for me is very much like an extreme version of femininity that I think it's really interesting to throw into heavy music. It was a thing in like the early and mid 2000s when there's a lot of pushback and like more like femininity brought into like heavy music, and it's basically just comes down to like yelping on stage and strutting around and just like having this like fun dichotomy with the breakdowns and heavier sections that we have.
I saw an interview of you on YouTube where you were reading comments about your band. One of them said something like, sasscore, what the fuck is that? Call it tech grind, it is what it is. But really what I love about your music and extreme music in general is that you can put names on everything. At the end of the day, when I watched two of your live videos, your art was like in my face straight through it, with violence, sass, and presence. So I wanted to ask you, what is the process of you going on stage with SeeYouSpaceCowboy? Do you prepare a lot? Did you build your stage attitude? And how much is it the everyday Connie?
So like for me, like getting on stage is like very natural, and it's something that I like really look forward to on tour. I don't really do anything to, like prepare other than maybe have like a drink to like loosen up, and then I just kind of go on stage and let everything go out. Everything in my like my brain, everything that's ailing me, it's a total form of catharsis for me. And it wasn't a stage presence I really had to develop. Like I've been doing this like crazy shit for a while, whether it be like rolling around on the floor, crying while playing in like my old screamo bands in high school and shit. So it's a very like natural thing for me to just like get on stage and let everything out and just be like, this is me. I wouldn't say that I act like that 24/7. I'm pretty calm and methodical most of the days, but like this definitely almost like a caricature. Like if I could just run around doing whatever I wanted, like I would be like that. And so it's like very nice to like let that out. I mean, because we do long tours. I mean, like 47 days is the longest we've ever done, and to do that every day it's really nice, because then it like settles me down to like go into like my normal everyday life and be like more methodical, because I have all my emotions. I let them all out. I got like all the catharsis I need till next time. I can just like chill and focus on my work and the more intricate parts of like being in a band.
It's interesting that you brought up the term catharsis, because as a PhD sociology student, I interview a lot of people, a lot of fans of metal music and extreme music in general. And from like little kids to old AC/DC or Metallica fans, they all say that even when you're not on stage, well, but in the pit, at a show, that's what they like. That's what they didn't change from their youth to their 50s. They like this catharsis of letting it all out once you're with your peers, even if you don't know them. Is this something you experienced early in your extreme music days, discovering metal music or punk music?
Definitely. I got into like punk, like 80s hardcore really young, because my dad had shown me. I was like 10 or 11, and he showed me like Black Flag, Surgetrix, and all those bands, and it definitely became a big point of catharsis for me. I would skate all the time and just have like Black Flag on my iPod just going. Like that was my catharsis for a while, and then I got into music, and like that was always the most important part of like playing in hardcore bands and playing in heavy bands. Was I want to let everything out that I feel. The reason that this music exists, like it's not intricate, it's not super complex, it's not super thought provoking, but it is just an extreme like outburst of emotion, and that's kind of like followed me throughout my life as I like started to play different genres, more complicated music. That's always still been the same thing for me. Is I will get on stage, I will scream, I will sass, I will do whatever, but I'm gonna let everything out, because there's no point in doing this if I don't feel like it's a release for me. And it's the same thing with going to shows. I mean, I love standing in the crowd as much as I love standing on the stage. Like I know it's controversial, but I like mosh and crowd kill at hardcore shows. Like it's all a very like cathartic thing for me to feel, just letting everything out. And I think it's such an important part of playing in heavy bands, is just to put everything out there when you have these chances. And that's like why like we run to shows whenever there are, like why I would like hop on a bus in high school to go to random punk shows. I didn't even know who was playing. I just wanted to be there because it was such a release for me.
I know that your style on stage is like really, I can't say really natural, because I know that you're not the same in the streets or at home, but well, did you learn any music theory or vocal lessons in a formal school way? Maybe for even your previous bands, like I saw René Descartes, right?
Yeah.
Did you learn any music theory or vocal lessons before that?
No, I've been very much just kind of winging it, screaming at the top of my lungs for most. I mean, I've been a vocalist for like punk bands of some sort for 10 years now. And I've always just kind of winged it. And, I played in a lot of screamo bands, as you mentioned, Rene Descartes and Flowers Shaped Pens and Meryl Streaker. And those bands, like that genre, it's very much about just scream at the top of your lungs. It's really high pitched. It's visceral and brutal. For this band, though, I kind of have, for the first time ever, started to learn how to hone my voice a bit, just because it's way more complicated than shit I've ever had to do before. I had to like sass and I had to like scream, and I got to a point where I wasn't really happy with my screams just sounding like a kid yelling anymore. So I kind of, with the help of our old guitar player who knew a little bit more about using their voice than I did, learned how to like use my diaphragm and learned how to like really control tone more than just here's a high, here's a low. Now I have a range all in between that at my disposal. So I definitely wouldn't say formal training in any sort of way. I definitely winged it my whole life, but now I'm finally kind of getting the drive to learn some technique to like, especially since we're like signed and I guess quote unquote a professional band. So it comes with some like unspoken subtext of, hey, you gotta start to like hone your craft a bit more, because there's a lot more money in this that people are putting in, and you're playing to bigger audiences, like playing to like 1,900 people on the Knock Loose tour. Like you can't really just go out there and just like scream and hope it sounds good. You gotta know it's gonna sound good out there.
Yeah, right. It's a bit of a schematic when I study extreme music bands when, well, you're younger than this, but sometimes there is people in their 50s who like go vegan and stop alcohol because they can put up the same energy on stage. Did you restrain like yourself of any consumptions or anything to still have this energy on stage, or at this point, or you just, well, I can do it, I would just, as you said, try to learn a bit, but to still wing it? Do you still wing it easily?
Yeah, I mean, I've been vegan for 4 years now, and Space Cowboy is like an explicitly vegan band. But I still just kind of go out and do whatever. I don't really. I'm still young enough, and I'm still full of energy to the point where I don't really worry too much. I will, still have a couple drinks every show just for fun. I like to like enjoy myself on tour a lot, and that's definitely part of it. Is I'm not to the point yet where I'm like, okay, like gotta eat like healthy, gotta like not do this, not do that, blah blah blah. I'm still very much in that like punk mentality of like I'm just traveling in the van and I'm gonna do that. But like I said, like I have been like taking steps to like keep my voice together, like try not to yell when I'm in conversations and stuff like that, like because that'll like hurt your voice more than screaming will. And things like just a little bit more conscious to like don't want to lose my voice, things like that. But other than that, like I'm still very much just like I'm on tour. I'm gonna go where the place has a bar. I got a drink ticket. Like I'm gonna go have some fun, enjoy this before it gets too much like a job down the line.
Philosophy is something I see when I see all of your work from like René Descartes, obviously, but also there is philosophy perspective in your lyrics, or even in your tweet name, though.
Yes.
But in interviews, I saw that you had a psychology degree.
No.
No, that was.
No.
Not well reached in interviews. Okay. I may email them then. So right. So do you have any degree of some sort in philosophy? Did you study it a bit, or was it a personal book reading stuff?
I don't have like a degree in it or anything, but I've definitely studied it a lot. It started out in high school where in like sophomore year, so like when I was like 14 15, like a very crucial age, like my English class had a section on existentialism, so we read Metamorphosis and we read The Stranger, and like from then on, like it felt like answers. I mean, questions I had rolling around in my head for a while, like, started to get answers. So I kind of went down that rabbit hole of going down like all the philosophers, mainly existentialism, a little nihilism, to just like explore like what people have thought about this like existence we live in. And as you point out, like, my Twitter handle is Camus Love Child. So it's philosophy is really important to me, especially absurdism currently, because it's kind of for people who feel really lost or like feel like, what is going on? Why is life such a torturous mess? Philosophy for me is like a really like nice way to like learn about like just the metaphysics of existence, like with Rene Descartes, or like to like go beyond that to like purpose and meaning, and like coming to your own decision of like whether you're one of the people who like, there is no meaning, so I will find meaning, or you're like, there is no meaning, I don't care, I'm going to have fun and like live a good life, or whatever it may be. There's a lot of answers in philosophy that I think it's really healthy for people to study into it and really analyze their own existence and learn and grow from it. Because I have a feeling that a lot of people think existentialism and absurdism and all these are inherently negative, but to me it's been an extremely positive thing to like come to terms with. And like, my love of absurdism right now has been like one of the most positive forces in my life, because it's just kind of giving me this freedom to be like, you know what, I don't care that there's no meaning to my life, I will not put any there, I'm literally just going to enjoy and create art and eat and just like acknowledge the beauty and like the intrigue of like living. While I am forced to exist, I will like enjoy this.
That's really something you have in common. I thought about a French singer of a band called Morte Eminence. We talked a lot about it because we talked about how our country is really fucked up right now. There is struggles everywhere. Our government just fucks everyone up. So
Yeah.
basically, we talked about how we are trying to find a meaning in all this, even to fight this system. And that was something common with you, because he said like, I don't find meaning in what I do to survive, to work, even if it's not art for him, because he doesn't live with music. But reading books and reading philosophy books helps finding something to take a grasp on while you're lost at sea in our society. One of your main lyrics topics is mental health. You talked about it in a deep personal way, but also in a form of political and philosophical discourse. So I guess I can ask you, why is it important to discuss mental health as straightforward as you do in extreme music?
I think it's really important because heavy music is our means of catharsis. So I think if you don't have any meaning, or what you're singing doesn't resonate with you on a personal level, then it just seems disingenuous to me. For me, like, Songs for the Firing Squad, all of that was overtly political, and it was like satirical at times. I was really in a time in my life where like my mental health was relatively good, so I could focus on these other topics that kind of like ailed me, taking like shots at like the things that like I don't like in society and governmentally as well. Also like taking shots at what I don't like that the left does, taking shots at like liberals, taking shots at people who like are complicit in like the abuse of like minorities, but like will claim to support but will not be willing to like, take it to the means that we need to like actually like combat bigotry. And so for me it was just like really like natural to, at that time, I like to be like, this is like what I see and I'm gonna say it. I mean, I wrap it up in like a artistic, flowery kind of way, because that's what's fun to write for me. I think it's really tongue-in-cheek and satirical, and like a lot of like metaphors and like personification things is fun. But when Correlations came around, my mental health kind of like took a nosedive. I lost somebody who I loved like very much. they committed suicide, and as a result of that, I became like a really gnarly alcoholic and drug addict, and was like struggling to just like live day to day like against my own brain. So it became really important to talk about those emotions I was having, because I needed to like let it out, and it was a really painful process to doing it. That's why I named the album "The Correlation Between Entrance and Exit Wounds," because the initial damage is really painful, but healing is also really painful. The entrance wound is painful, and the exit wound is equally as painful sometimes. And recording that album, like I would literally go home and get blackout drunk after every night, and like come to recording the next day like out of my mind, doing drugs in the studio and shit, because I just truly was in a terrible place. So it was so important for me to express those feelings, and to also offer other people in a way something to listen and be like, hey, I kind of understand what you're going through. And that's why I also put like a lot of positive, like uplifting messages in there as well, that I've never really done, and I've never really been that person to do that. But I kind of realized that like the things that I say in those songs are things that I wish I could follow myself. But and since I fail in this moment to like embody these things, I'm gonna put them out there, so hopefully they resonate with other people, because they are the things that I would tell somebody else going through what I'm going through. They're the things that I wish I would listen to myself. But if I can help other people instead, then like that's at least something while I like am suffering through this stuff. And I think that as a recent, mental health is something that a lot of people have been talking about more, and we've been more open to doing that, which hasn't been in the past. So I think like moving forward, it's like very important to like keep an open mind in every genre, even like tough guy hardcore genres. I see more people talking about their feelings, and I think it's really good, because it's the like music literally is like emotional expression, especially like this genre of music. So like let it out, use your like tools to like alleviate yourself of pain. Why wouldn't you? You know.
You're leading this right where I wanted to, because I think you represent a solution, an arts proposition to toxic masculinity in hardcore, because in a way you speak about mental health, which is not seen as good in toxic masculinity. You challenge genders, stereotypes, and you empower the sass metal, which is also challenging. But also, like, if I can say if this person is screaming about her mental health, why wouldn't I talk to my girlfriend or anyone else about it? That's really where the power of it is, I think.
Yeah, I think that opening doors for communications, I think, is like really important. I think that it really just does take some people challenging the status quo, and that's kind of how I feel with like my position, even in like groups that I am part of. Like I've always been an avid I've always avidly talked about not conforming to like stereotypes of it. Like I am trans, and therefore I'm queer and a woman, and I hate how I see other trans people like showing almost like a state of weakness, or just like complaining on the internet about things instead of actually like doing things, or being scared or like not being scared, because I understand that, but like feeling like they don't have a place in the scene. Because for me, it's always been, if I don't feel like I have a place in the scene, I'm gonna like make it. I'm gonna make my place in the scene. I'm gonna force my way in there, and that's like why like I said earlier, I've received criticism for this, but like this is why like I mosh at the shows with the big boys. You know, that's why, because I feel it's like very important to like, one, I love it and it's great, and two, I think that like I want to lead forward the notion that like, look, like, yeah, there's like this like queer art scene, and that's cool, and like I love it. It's lovey-dovey and it's sick, but like sometimes like the world sucks, and like scenes are tough, and like you have to be tough too. And I don't think there's anything wrong with like being able to be extremely feminine, and do what I do, but also stand up where I need to, and like fight the good fight if I so choose.
It's really DIY concept you're expressing here, because you said that there is, in theory, no place for me on the scene, so I will take it. I will even, like, you're creating it because you're creating art. Is that something you try to do on materials? Like, did you try to really produce your own music early?
It's always been important to like make music and like make my own thing, because I've always been a fan of like weird stuff. I think that if you're not doing something different and new or adding something to a conversation, there's really no point in having it. So it's always been important to me to create music, create your place, do your thing, make a mark in that way. And it's the same thing as when like we started getting absorbed into the hardcore scene. It was like, okay, like we're going into like uncharted territory, and it's a very different scene. But the hardcore scene, like mostly it was like very receptive and nice. But I went into that with the idea of like, I'm gonna make my place here. I don't care. Like, I love these bands. These bands are fantastic. I love it. I know we're really different. But I'm gonna do it anyways. And I think it's really important to like see what you want and like be the force or be like the praxis to like move like your like yourself and like society forward. Like, if I want to see more queer representation in heavy music, like, well, like, here you go. Like, I'm the only trans woman signed to a major label in the heavy band, but it marks a point that says, hey, this is possible. So like, go out and do it. Like, this is a thing, and you won't face terrible backlash. And like, I mean, I do from like the metal scene, but like hardcore specifically has been super accepting and super nice, and like show the people who like are maybe looking outside the music scene as this like scary thing, and they're like frightened, which is like understandable. I get it, but really push people to be like, no, just like, we're gonna drive our place in. I'm not gonna wait. I'm not gonna complain about not having representation and wait for an invitation. I'm just gonna go and do it and be like, okay, here's representation. Now everybody else, like, let's go. Everybody, like, it's that like cliche, be the change you want to see kind of thing, in a way that is self-gratifying to me, because I want to do this and I want to be a part of this and I love it, but also in a sense of like getting messages from a lot of like people being like, wow, it's like really great to see someone like you in the scene. It's like gives me a lot of hope. Like, or like I get a lot of messages of people like saying they had the strength to like come out because like there was some representation. It's really important to have that, and I agree. But I think that we need to fight to have more, and like what that means is not just fighting the scene that you like for every like microaggression that you see, more so going in and being a part of that scene. And then you can kind of suggest things from the inside and be like, hey, maybe you shouldn't say this, or hey, maybe this is a little like sexist, like whatever you want to say. But you need to be in the scene and you need to be a part of it to like really like make change. And for me, like, it's that nice double-edged sword of, I love being here. I love hardcore. I have so many amazing friends in the scene, and I also can work as a positive force for change within it.